Hello, I'm Caroline at the Quail Hill Cottage, and I'm doing more in our homeschooling series. I'm a mom of 6 girls, 5 that are school-aged, and we have homeschooled for 6 years total over the years. There was a little bit in the middle where my girls went to private school, but I've just been trying to share some of my insights specifically into choosing and using a Charlotte Mason approach in homeschooling, specifically using Ambleside Online as my curriculum. So this message is to you younger moms who are really eager and excited about maybe starting Ambleside Year 1, and you're wondering what you should be doing before that. So I want to share from my personal experience of having 4 girls ages 5 and under. And then I had those 4 when my oldest was starting first grade and we started homeschooling, and what I like that I did in those years, and then what I would go back and change knowing what I know now about those years. So the first piece of advice I have for you is do truly wait until they are 6, like Charlotte Mason suggests, to start formal schooling. And I know when your oldest is like 4 and 5, they seem so old, but the school years can get hard pretty fast, and I don't think you want to rush them. There's a ton of literature out there that recommends waiting until children are older. You're probably going to get some old ladies at church commenting if your child can't read or write perfectly, and just ignore them. But truly wait until your child is 6 to start formal lessons. Now, if you have an eager learner, the things that I do start earlier, maybe in the kindergarten year, are some gentle reading lessons and some gentle math lessons, and then just a lot of read alouds. The Ambleside Year 0 page has a lot of suggestions for books that you could start reading aloud. But I would start doing those 3 things if I have a child under 6 that I am eager to start school with. So like I said, one of the reasons I would definitely wait to start Ambleside Year 1 until they're in first grade is that the years get hard pretty quick. So years 3, 4, 5 are very challenging for a 3rd, 4th, and 5th grader. I've even taken a couple of years to do a year if I feel like it's becoming too challenging for my child to be successful in. So the most important thing in schooling in these early years is you don't want to quench their love of learning. So making the school get too hard too fast could possibly do that. So do wait until they are 6 and they are starting first grade to really jump into Ambleside Year 1. So what would I do before that time? Well, I would make the time before that all about your habits as a family and in your own personal life. This is one of those things that I feel like I didn't do. I just felt very overwhelmed with being pregnant a lot and, having lots of little kids. My babies tended to be very fussy and colicky. And so I felt like I was just surviving. And there's a part of me like, I don't want to say if I could go back, I would change this, because you don't know what good thing you're reaping now because of those things that you went through. So I say I would change this with a grain of salt. Really, I look back at my life and I don't think I would change anything because it's led me to where I am now. But if I had to go back and relive that time as a young mom of 4 kids, 5 and under, I would focus a lot more on our habits, because I definitely think a morning routine is really fun for preschoolers and toddlers, and it can be really helpful to you. Now, my main caveat would be to make it manageable. You don't want a morning routine that is so intense and so hard that no one can do it but you, and you can only do it if you're in peak health, because there may be times where you get sick and your spouse has to take over for you, or if a friend is trying to help you one morning if you have a doctor's appointment or something. Make it a routine that is easy enough that other people can do it in your place, because honestly, if you did have a situation where you were unavailable to do that with your toddlers and preschoolers, still having that routine, even if it's with someone they're not used to, would be super comforting to them. And then also make it manageable enough that you can do it in those times when you're not feeling well. So specifically, I'm thinking of pregnancy, when I'm usually very nauseous for the first 15 to 20 weeks, and I'm not operating at peak performance. And then postpartum is another time that is really hard to operate at the same rate that you normally do if you have some type of chronic illness. So don't make a routine so intense that you feel like you're failing at it if you don't feel well enough to be able to do it all. So the first routine I would work on is the routine of maybe after breakfast, going to your rooms, getting dressed, your personal hygiene, their personal hygiene of brushing their teeth, brushing their hair, putting things where they go, making their beds, all of those things that will be really helpful to you once they do start school, that they could do those independently without a lot of reminders. Now, depending on the personalities of your kids, they may still need some prompting to do those things, but the goal would be that as they reach adulthood, they are personally responsible for their areas in the house, and they will become responsible for other areas too. But don't make these like an area where there's a tantrum, or some type of punishment every morning. If it's not working with your toddler or your preschooler, figure out a way to make it work. Find a job that they do like doing, like feeding the dog or watering plants, and make that part of their morning routine. And then always work alongside them. So I would always model for them by making my own bed and getting dressed. And then I would come alongside them. I do this with my preschoolers, kindergartners, those ages of, okay, I'm going to be on this side of the bed, you be on that side of the bed, let's make the bed together. Don't make it a big battle, make it a fun time that they look forward to. So then the other routine I would love to introduce with kids at those ages is the idea of a little bit of morning work. So some people call this a morning basket, and you can have it in a literal basket or you can have it on a stack next to the couches. But pick a place where you guys gather after those morning chores are done. You can make it with a snack or without a snack. You can make a walk beforehand to get some energy out, or you could save the walk for afterwards. But just a time where you guys gather up. It doesn't have to be at the same time every day. Although when my girls were little, I would play like an Alexa Spotify playlist, and they each picked a song that was kind of a warning that morning time was coming. And I would play it throughout all their rooms. And if they hadn't finished their chores yet, there would be a little pattering of feet to hurry up and finish their chores and get here by the time the last song played. So you can use music to prompt for that, whatever you need to do. But have a time where you gather in the morning and do a few little things together. So the things that I would do is I would start reading some nursery rhymes, and the Ambleside Online program recommends these too. But reading through just a classic Mother Goose, you'll recognize a lot of these little rhymes, and they're kind of nonsensical, but they are really great for language development and learning to read and talk. And then here's another one. This is one of the poetry authors for year one. So I was using this with a year one this year, but you could use some different books of poetry. And I would just read one a day or a couple a day, just to get some of the language development in there. And then this I had printed out. It's not fancy at all. This was strictly for me because at the time my kids couldn't read, but it has some scripture memory that we would be working on together. If you are not religious, you can also just do some poetry that you're memorizing. I would do scripture and poetry. And my girls still remember a lot of the poems that we learned together. We would memorize a lot of the short Robert Louis Stevenson poems that were very sweet and cute. And I would often pick them based on the season we were in, and they can still recite a lot of those. Another great collection of poems is A.A. Milne's works beyond the Winnie the Pooh stories, but a lot of his poetry. So we would work on some memory work. We would do hand motions for the Bible passage. We would do maybe hand motions for the poetry. And then you can start tuning in to what Ambleside Online is learning each month for their folk song and their hymn of the month. There are Spotify playlists. There's also a really great mom on YouTube, and I will link her in the description box, who does beautiful renditions of the folk songs and hymns for each month. And so you can have those on a playlist. If you don't feel comfortable leading the songs with your kids and singing, let her do that for you, and you guys can sing along with those. And so that is what I would do for the rest of the morning work. This can take 5 minutes. Usually babies and toddlers are pretty happy sitting and, doing hand motions and listening to music and stuff. And so this doesn't have to be intense, but it is a really, really great way to start off the morning. And then as you transition into having older kids, it's gonna be a great way to start off the school morning. So I would not try and launch into too much older kid reading during this time, like with chapter books and stuff. I would maybe save those for times if you have babies and toddlers where they are napping or occupied, because your older kid may get frustrated that you're being interrupted so much. But I would use this time to read maybe board books with your babies and toddlers. The older kids tend to listen to those too. But as much as your babies and toddlers are wanting to participate, let them and make it friendly towards them, because I think as you start homeschooling, if you can use that time in the morning to really fill them up with attention, then they're going to wander off and be a little more content to play while you can dive into some subjects with your older one. So the other things I would work on habit-wise are my own personal habits or your own personal habits. So some things that would be really helpful for you to work on would be working on what you're going to make for dinner every night and coming up with a meal planning each week and a way to get the groceries. This was a big one for me when I was a young mom. My mom would ask me every day, like, what are you making for dinner? And I'm like, I don't know, like hadn't thought any meat or anything. And something that a muscle I've had to strengthen over the years. And it doesn't take up as much space in my brain anymore now that I have a lot of practice with it. But when I was a young mom, it was definitely a big question of what am I gonna make for dinner tonight? What do I need to start now? What meat do I need to start thawing? All of that. And so just get into the personal habit of doing that so that when you do start homeschooling, that isn't having to take up so much space in your brain. I think anytime we learn a new skill, it takes up a lot more space. And if homeschooling is going to be your new skill, you're going to want to free your mind a little bit from some of the household stuff and get those under control in the younger years so you don't have to think about them as much. I would also work on easy lunches you can serve that may already be easy for you with having toddlers and babies. But think about having things on hand that are easy to make and eat, and also coming up with good routines for your housework because it does get harder to get the housework done when you're homeschooling. Actually, I've been laughing because the last few weeks when we've been out for summer break, my house is so much easier to manage. And I was telling my husband, I guess, I'm actually not as bad of a housekeeper as I thought. I just was trying to do homeschooling while keeping a house. So homeschooling definitely puts a dent in the amount of housework you're able to get done. So getting that on as many easy systems as possible is fine. Also recognizing, like, as your kids get older, they're going to become more helpful. You may have more work if you have more kids, but having kids who can do some of the, small jobs around the house will be helpful too. Okay, so if you're doing great in all those things and you need more suggestions, I would say obviously you can start reading books or listening to podcasts about the homeschooling method that you're choosing. I think if you're watching this specifically, Charlotte Mason Approach and Ambleside Online. And so I definitely have some books I can recommend if you have that time. The OG would obviously be Charlotte Mason's works herself. I have not read through all of these. I want to, that is goals. But there are some other books that summarize some of these ideas. But if you feel like tackling them, there's 6 of them. Best of luck. They would be a great choice. I think one of the best summaries of the Charlotte Mason approach is this, For the Children's Sake. And so this was one of the first books I read on a Charlotte Mason approach and really enjoyed it. This is another one that's recommended, a Charlotte Mason companion. As you can see, I've started it. I don't know what ideas I've gotten from this that I've just assimilated over the years, but can always pick up that. This was one that I got recently, all about morning time, a really sweet book about kind of what I was talking with you about, is developing like a morning time with your kids that you can use all throughout the 12 years of their education. This is a really great book that just takes the idea of habits, which is what we're talking about, from Charlotte Mason's own writings and how to develop those in young children. This was a good one, Read Aloud Revival, or Read Aloud Family by Read Aloud Revival, just getting into the ideas behind why it's so good to spend time reading these living books and things like that. Now, if you've watched my homeschooling story video, you know that I did not have time to do all those things I just suggested to you. I didn't even realize I was going to homeschool until right before my daughter started first grade. I had 3 other kids, and I felt like I didn't even have time to study how to homeschool. And I ended up just having to kind of jump in and start doing it. And that was the best thing I could do because kind of similar to how, like, you'll read a marriage book before marriage and you're like, oh yeah, that sounds great. Then you get married and you're like, okay, I need to go back and read the marriage book again. Same with like parenting a new baby. Same with homeschooling. So you can read a lot before homeschooling, but you might just find doing it and then starting to read more about it as you're doing it is the most helpful. And then ultimately, I know there's a lot of parenting books and homeschooling books and all those things out there, but I feel like the most helpful thing a homeschooling parent can do is to work on yourself, to work on your own patience, to work on your own gentleness, to work on your reactions and your anger. And I think that reading these homeschooling books can be helpful to develop a good sense of what is appropriate for children. So parenting books, homeschooling books may be great. I don't think they replace the personal work that a parent should be doing in their own lives. And then if you've done all those things and you still need things to do while you're waiting to start year 1, I would start pre-reading the year 1 books. And so the goal of pre-reading, and I discussed this a little bit in my video on narration, is that you would identify any words that your child may need help understanding that would affect their understanding of the point of the story. So not needing to define every word that they may not know, because they're going to learn a lot of these words just through the context of the story, but words specifically that they may get hung up on trying to figure out what it means, and they are not able to focus on the rest of what you're saying. So you can do a little sticky note at the beginning of each chapter. So those are just some tips. If I were in your place with preschoolers and toddlers and babies and looking forward to starting year 1 of Ambleside, what I would do beforehand. I mentioned that you could start some gentle math and reading lessons. I am a big believer in the All About Reading program, and so I use the All About Reading pre-reading with any kindergartners I have that are ready to start school, but I'm not starting Ambleside year 1 with them yet. Math, I've really loved the Math with Confidence program. I've also used, I think it's the Charlotte Mason arithmetic or something like that, some little like cloth bound books that I used with one of my girls when they were in kindergarten as just some introduction to numbers and stuff. There's lots of great ones of those, but year 0 kindergarten should be all about enjoying learning, reading beautiful books, and establishing really great habits that will help in the long term. I hope this was helpful, and I will be sharing more homeschooling tips specifically using Ambleside Online and my experience in the future.